The last owner that I bought this from told me that this particular guitar I have right here in this case survived a house fire. Let me repeat. The guitar in this case survived a house fire. I'm not an expert in woods, I'm not an expert in carpentry or whatever, but what I do know is fire is probably the worst thing that could happen to a piece of wood. But this guitar survived it, which tells me that something is unique about this guitar. This guitar was meant to survive for a reason. So today I have a 1979 Fender Stratocaster with a stock Floyd Rose tremolo system. Very interesting guitar. By the way, I'm not sure if the guitar was in this particular case when it was in the fire, or if this guitar was on a stand or whatnot, but this is by far the most heavy duty case I've ever seen in my life. If I dropped a bowling ball on this case and there was a guitar inside, I'm pretty sure the guitar would stay in good condition. That's how durable this case is. So to be completely honest, who knows if the guitar was in a fire? That's what the last owner told me. I spoke to the owner for 30 minutes before buying this guitar. He seemed like a believable dude, so I took his word for it. But there are a couple reasons why I do believe this was in some sort of fire or natural disaster. Because just by looking at the condition of this guitar, this is definitely not relicked purposely. I mean, you clearly see tons of chips on the bottom of the guitar. There's a lot of paint chips, finish chips on the top. I've seen a lot of, homemade relic guitars, but I've never really seen a guitar that was relic, quote unquote, like this. This is, in my opinion, not purposely done. And another reason why I do believe this was in a fire is because the chipping and the wear on the finish is done very irregularly. There's like some weird, I don't even know what to call it, maybe bubbling, if that's the right word, but there's a lot of interesting, wear and a worn look to this guitar that makes me believe maybe this did survive a fire, because this is just in very interesting relic condition. Structurally, guitar is solid as fuck. Even though that there's a lot of scratches and chips and whatnot, just by the structural integrity of this guitar is very firm and solid. No cracks in the body, no headstock crack. All the stuff that I personally see is just aesthetics, just wear that has no effect on the playability of the guitar. Another interesting thing about this guitar is that the fretboard definitely has some wear. Typically on maple fretboards, when people play it a lot, you can see some kind of wearing on the finish on the top of the fretboard. And for this particular guitar, there definitely is that wear you can see, such as these black spots, but it's done in a way where it doesn't look like it was done by someone playing it a lot. Usually for maple fretboards, you see a lot of fret wear on the first 3 frets and maybe the top of the guitar if, the guy uses his thumb a lot, but there's a lot of wear on the bottom section of the frets, and it's just in a very weird pattern. So like I said, because of those things, I do believe this guitar was in some sort of fire or some sort of natural disaster. Although this guitar does have the original Floyd Rose trem system, the guitar is not all original. I've done some research on the late 70s Floyd Rose Fender Strats. All of them came with a stock humbucking system for the bridge, but for this particular guitar, the last owner told me that he swapped out the humbucking pickup, put on a single coil, made it a 5-way switch, which I believe was the original way anyways. But the one thing that I could see was changed is there's this little hole right above the tone knob. So that's where I'm assuming the changes of electronics happened from the single coil, or from the humbucking to the single coil. Another thing that I realized was not original are these tuners. These are very high quality tuners. These are the made in Germany Schaller tuners. It says it right on the tuning pegs. Definitely not original Fender, but regardless, still very high quality tuners. No effect on tuning stability whatsoever. Some of the main differences between a standard Stratocaster and a 70s Strat is during the 70s, they made some minor adjustments to the guitar. Some may call it major, some may call it minor. I call it minor. One minor difference is the back. Rather than having the standard 4 bolts on the back plate or on the neck plate, the 70s Strat Strats have the 3 bolts and the classic big F Fender logo and a small micro tilt adjustment hole. Another minor difference of a 70 Strat is the enlarged headstock. Some people like it, some people don't like it. For me personally, I like it. I just think it's a very unique looking headstock design that any other era Fender guitars don't have. So 50s, 60s, 80s, 90s onwards, they all have the regular standard size headstock, but only the 70s, they have the enlarged headstock design. But since this is a stock Floyd Rose, there is this Floyd Rose trem system as well as these locking bolt nuts. And to be completely honest with you, I've never really understood how to tune a Floyd Rose perfectly. Every Floyd Rose that I've owned and reviewed on this channel, I talk about the same thing. It's just I've never really understood how to do the micro tilt adjustment properly. And that's mainly because I don't really play a Floyd Rose. So even if I do buy a Floyd Rose guitar, I usually play it for a couple weeks, couple months, and then I sell it. So what I've learned by buying and selling a lot of guitars is at the end of the day, a guitar truly is just a piece of wood and a piece of electronic pickups just put into the wood to make the sound come out. You know, so many times people, sometimes including myself, we get so anal about the condition. Oh, is there scratches on the body? Are there scratches on the neck? Oh, there's a little chip in the finish. But, you know, after seeing this guitar in person, a guitar that's not damaged to the point where it's not playable, but definitely a lot of wear, I can just tell that, dude, the paint is such a minor part to the guitar. This literally could be completely stripped off and the guitar would sound exactly the same, give or take. You know, the fretboard, you know, people worry about, oh, is there fret wear? Oh, is there chips on, you know, the wood of the maple neck? I mean, dude, look at this guitar. This guitar is completely worn, completely used, completely fire damaged, but still plays beautifully, sounds excellent. And that just told me, dude, a guitar is truly fucking durable, man. This stuff can last you several decades with tons of wear and it will still sound and play the same, assuming you set it up properly and you take care of the guitar. This guitar was in a fire, but I could clearly tell that it was set up properly. It was made very well to the point where it survived a house fire, which is crazy. By the way, one thing that I did not mention about this guitar is there's a pretty good weight to this particular Strat. All these 70 Strats that I've owned, which isn't that many, but maybe less than 5, they weren't light guitars, but they weren't super heavy guitars. Maybe around, you know, 7 pounds to be average. This Strat, I'd say, is in the 9 to 10 pound range, which I personally really like. I like heavy guitars, but when I saw this guitar in person and held it, that was the first thing I noticed other than the condition on the weight. It's just very interesting. I don't know if it's because of this is a Floyd Rose Strat or maybe this particular Stratocaster they used heavier wood, but the weight on this is definitely a noticeable factor, which I enjoy. Let me tell you, tone wise, this guitar sounds pretty damn good. So, like I said, 1979 Fender Stratocaster stock Floyd Rose tremolo system survived the house fire. Definitely a lot of cool character and history behind this guitar. You know, I'm not really a, you know, spiritual type of dude, but I feel like if a guitar like this survived the house fire, there was a reason. There was a reason why it survived the house fire, because like I said, wood and fire is probably the worst combination possible for anything. You know, that's literally the worst thing you could do to a piece of wood like an electric guitar. But somehow this guitar survived it and it has lived to tell the tale. Very cool 70s Strat.